It's so tricky. How do you really control, money laundering? It is a very hard thing to do because you can use intermediaries. I mean, how far back do you need to trace the money to get there? So it's a very tricky issue. It's probably not enough. I feel personally sorry, sort of, that Lloyd Green's name has been dragged through this because it was under his watch, and he was probably one of the most ethical bankers that the City of London ever had.
Well, he's written a book. I mean, he's a Church of England minister,
yes.
Isn't he? And he's written a book on, serving God, serving mammon is the title of one of his books. So yes, he was chief executive of the bank at the time. But as you say, when you say how do you control money laundering, I mean, when you look at the details of this report, $7 billion moved in a very short space of time from Mexico through its US operations. I mean, that kind of thing, surely that raises a red flag.
It should raise red flags, but it is tough, because if you look at how far do you have to trace it back, I mean, here clearly we have a clear case, but if you look at money laundering as a whole, it is not an easy thing to control, and no matter how good your KYC, your client policies are, you never know enough, and you can always use a go-between. I mean, if you just start thinking yourself on how you would handle it, if you had to launder money, you can come up with so many ways of, proxy companies that look very legit.
Still, the banks have a responsibility, though, to make sure that their operations are managed correctly, and I think this probably does send a clear message to the other banks to get a grip on their operations, especially that, their subsidiaries in countries where this easily could happen.
Absolutely, absolutely, you're absolutely right. I'm just saying it's not as easy as it looks. It's easy for us to sit here and be very damning, and we should be damning. But in terms of then when you physically look how you really control money laundering, it's not an easy task to do.
Well, talking of not easy tasks, sorting out the system of interbank lending, because now many are saying LIBOR needs to go, it needs to be changed. There's all sorts of other systems around the world that are very similar to this, I have to say, that manage interbank lending rates. Give us your take on this ding-dong between Ben Bernanke and Mervyn King.
Well, it's very tough. Ben Bernanke is absolutely. I mean, Ben Bernanke says, "Well, we told you so. We've seen it. We've seen it earlier," which is all very nice. But he is right in terms we probably need to review how we set LIBOR. And clearly, if banks can lowball as NatWest did, that's clearly not good. However, and when he says, "Oh, well, maybe," West Barclays, yes, West Barclays, maybe we need to look at new alternatives. I can't see an alternative to LIBOR as a base rate.
Also, difficult times when it comes to predicting the economy as well. We're talking about Ben Bernanke at the moment being quite pessimistic as well in the US economy. Let's be optimistic, because I think we were quite invigorated by the new appointment at Yahoo yesterday, and news that she's pregnant, Marissa Meyer, what was it, a self-styled geek?
Yes,
self-styled internet geek.
Says.
That's how she's being described. What does her appointment say about the corporate world taking on women, quite relatively young women, at the head of a company like this?
I think it's hard to say the corporate world, because the tech industry, sort of the new industries, are a little bit different from, let's say mining or banking or the traditional industries. And with we have seen Meg Ryan, we've seen various
Meg Whitman.
Meg Whitman, yes, Meg Whitman. There I go again. Meg Whitman do well. What this says is this is a woman who clearly has a lot of grit and determination. She was number 20 employee of Google. She's clearly customer-centric. She is product-centric, and she is interested in people. And what shows that she's interested in people, she didn't have her name attached to any specific new product, but was working on all the products. So she's clearly a team player. So that's probably a good thing.
Are you excited about her appointment in Yahoo? Because there's a lot of assessment in a lot of the newspapers about whether she is able to turn around this company that has, been flagging for years now and missed that opportunity to be sold to Microsoft. That was sort of Jerry Yang's moment when he said, no, we're not going to take that $44 billion offer from Microsoft. When you look at that now and Yahoo's valuations now, people are wondering still whether that was their biggest ever mistake.
It might have been the biggest ever mistake, and this is we're probably here now in Last Chance Saloon. She either turns it around and will build a great legacy for herself, or that will sort of be it for Yahoo, because, 5 chief executives in 5 years, that's pretty tough.
Yeah, that is tough. Let's talk about pensions, because on the front page of the Daily Telegraph, it's highlighting the fact that many who obviously have pension funds are being charged through the nose, pretty much.
Well, it's not just pensions. If if bank manages your money, the fees, and bankers get these private bankers, they get rewarded on churning portfolios, because every time you sell a stock and buy a stock, you get a fee. So if you look at how often these professional portfolio managers churn their portfolio and the fees that accrue to banks, it's quite scandalous, actually.
I suppose the thing is that I wouldn't be able to, and most people wouldn't feel confident managing their own pension funds, so someone has to. So their justification is, well, why shouldn't we be paid for it?
Yes, but be paid for it reasonably and, have a sort of a longer-term perspective and don't keep on churning portfolios.
Now, let's have a look at this story on the front page of the Eye. Again, in a lot of the UK press, the man in charge of G4S being grilled yesterday as well by UK politicians about the shambles of the security drama for the Olympics.
It's an absolute shambles. But the shambles is not just, G4S is an absolute shambles, and it's terrible, and they should be fined, and they should have to pay for all the excess costs that accrue to essentially the taxpayer. But what's really quite surprising is, if you have a project of that magnitude, that the government didn't do more to control and check what's going on. Because, they sort of said, oh, G4S has assured us. Well, that's surely not good enough. If you run a big project, let's say you put an oil platform out there and you want it to come up to stream, well, you are really checking deeply into what your contractors do.
So you think basically there's fault on both sides, complete oversight by the government, and G4S managing it very poorly indeed. I
think it's both sides are not exactly in for an award in good management.
Shall we talk about whether or not, are you a texter or a caller?
I'm a texter and a talker, actually. I'm good at both.
Cornelia?
I am a texter and a talker. I don't like texting. I have to text because certain people's preference is texting. But I hate what texting does to the English language.
I'm with you. Are you a shortener do you shorten words like your to your?
I am guilty as charged.
No,
we're not fans, are we?
I never shorten. Even if it drives me nuts when I text and I don't shorten. It's like, no, these are certain standards.